Hello, everyone. We're going to get started. Welcome. We're very excited to have Dr. Jose Bowen with us this morning as part of our Flipped Classroom series. He's author of Teaching Naked: How Moving Technology Out of Your College Classroom Will Improve Student Learning, which is the focus of today's both keynote and workshop later this afternoon at 1 p.m. Jose is a professor of music as well as dean at Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas. We welcome him today. We're very excited. Just a reminder before Jose gets started, we will have a book signing opportunity right outside the exit to your right if you do have a book and would like to get it signed. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Jose Bowen.
Can I move you just a second?
Is that good?
That's the thing. That's okay. Good morning. Thank you for welcoming me to Rochester Spring. I'm very glad to be here. I am going to say the magic words that I encourage all of you to use frequently. Please close your laptops. It does actually work. There is a handout which has stuff, and there are a couple of words here. But I actually do think it'll be, anything that's really that earth-shattering that I say is either in the book or on the handout, or you'll remember it, hopefully. So, pencils work. Okay. So my goal this morning is to entice you to come back to the workshop where we'll dig a little deeper and actually do a lot more hands-on in terms of talking about course design, how to find online content, et cetera. This morning I'm mostly going to make the case for why we need to do something. And we will do a couple of specific things, but I am going to talk at a more general level this morning. Briefly, because I don't think we really are unaware of our challenges. Anybody who's opened a newspaper knows it's the year of the MOOCs and all that kind of stuff. But there are a couple others that maybe should concern us. One is that we have a shrinking applicant pool. This is new, right? The last 100 years of American higher ed have all been of growing applicant pool. You are in one of the states that has fewer 18-year-olds expected in the next 15 years. And that's a combination of population shifts, but also of our high schools' poor performance, and so there will be fewer qualified applications. Now, there are opportunities there. I actually think one of the things the universities, will need to think about is some universities should go to a 5-year program with 1 year being a high school completion year. I mean, that's going to be a very popular product in the next couple of decades, because we do have high school dropouts who need to get more education, who have now matured a little bit, and you want more students, and they don't have a high school degree, and so there are lots of other options and opportunities, but that is certainly an issue. Parents, you know this one. We've become more concerned about cost and the benefit. Legislators are more concerned about this, and there's a kind of an overemphasis, in my view, on jobs. But frankly, people are looking at what's my return on investment for why am I sending my kids to this institution. We have new competition. We have MOOCs. We have all sorts of online products. We have University of Phoenix. In a lot of ways, the for-profits have come in to provide that job training that we moved away from, right? In the last 80 years or so, we created this liberal arts tradition, which was really created at Harvard as the idea that everybody needed to have this kind of classical education, and this would be good for democracy. That I believe. But I also think there was a sense that, well, vocational training is second best, and so even our high schools have kind of had this have the Harvard Red Book education that really was something that happened in the 50s, and so we've adopted this, and so there weren't vocational training courses, and so the for-profits have come in to do some of that. So we have lots of new competition. Graduation rates, this is just one of the measures that legislators and parents are looking at. I actually think we should be looking at learning rates, right? If you think about college, we do a lot of things backwards. So what do we measure, right, to graduation? We measure the amount of time you sit on your butt, right? Credit hours, which is based upon seat time, right? we're really giving the degree to the wrong part of the body, people. I mean, so right now, think about it. The variable, so what's constant is butt time, and what's variable is learning. We give the same degree to everybody, whether you learned a lot or you learned a little, but you had the same butt time. We've got that backwards. We should really be saying, you can graduate when you've learned this constant. There's a constant, which is the learning that here's what you can do when you graduate. It's going to take some people longer and some people less time. Right? The variable should be time, and we've got it backwards. And as you know, the credit hour was invented by the Carnegie Foundation about 100 years ago as a way to create retirement plans for all of us, to have some definition of full-time. They've just announced they're rethinking the credit hour. Hallelujah, it's about time. Of course, we're stuck now. We've created all of this infrastructure around credit hours, but it's not actually helping us. And other people have noticed that there's this differential in what people learn. And then if that all wasn't enough, we have Congress to think about. And so if you haven't seen the college scorecard, it's very interesting. Again, it's what I do. If you're a teacher or you're anything, you're going to be evaluated. The first thing you do is, what are the rules of evaluation? So when I go to a new university, I say, well, show me the course evaluations. What are the questions you ask students? I want to know how I'm going to be evaluated. And it's like, oh, if enthusiasm is important, oh, I better be more, right? Whatever. And so I, as a dean, said, well, how do I change the course evaluations to motivate exactly what we want to motivate? So we made our new question: how much did this course change your mind? How much did this course make you think about things in new ways? Right? Those were values that the school had. So I said, well, then the course evaluation should reflect those values on the teaching of it. So if you want to know what standard colleges will be held to, look at what White House and Congress have put on the college scorecard, and they'll tell you what graduation rates matter, the amount of debt matters, right? Learning actually doesn't really make the list, but that'll change. But that tells us what people are looking at here. We have another problem. That would be that we aren't really the change people. We like our medieval institution just the way it is, right? We are the keepers of tradition in our society in a lot of ways. And so we are not like Silicon Valley, where they reorganize every couple of months just for the heck of it, right? I mean, think about working at a place like Google, right, where they just mess with it all the time just for fun and because it's exciting and interesting. And so, oh, let's try reorganizing. We don't do that very well, which means that now that we're in a time of enormous disruption, we're at a disadvantage, right? This would be a good time to be in the computer business because you know that in 3 months, Samsung is going to come out with a new product, and if you're Apple, you can't just keep producing the same product. I mean, you just know that. We think, everybody's always going to need the 4-year bachelor, right? Maybe not, right? See, and because it's been that way for so long, we've kind of gotten soft. So that disruption, that thing that happened to journalism, remember that, nobody's going to want to read that paper online. Oops. Or that thing that happened to Borders books. People like bookstores and the feel of the books. Nobody's going to want to just read it on some electronic thing. Amazon. Right? Borders actually outsourced its online book selling to Amazon. Oops. We're kind of thinking, those online MOOCs, not a problem. I hope we don't say oops. So, a couple of key ideas. The first is value, right? We're not an online institution. We've got all this expensive infrastructure. People have to buy gas and park and then walk through the freezing cold to come to our classes. So if we're going to do that, we've got to provide more value here in this room than they can get online. And frankly, online, they can get a talking head, right? They can get this. In a room like this, sitting in the back, you can go to Yale that way. You can go to Stanford that way for free. So why would I come here? The only reason I would come here is because something more happens here. And that additional value has got to be faculty-student interaction. So key idea number one, your job and our job is to maximize the student-faculty interaction not the one-way communication, but the contact. So that may mean fewer class sections and more office hours. I mean, we're going to talk about lots of different ways of doing that, but that's got to be the value, that interaction, and not, I've got some content, you need to listen to it, because that you can get online. Technology is going to be a piece of this. But we got to remember that it's not a strategy, it's only the tool. So you start with your learning outcomes, right? You have just changed from quarters to semesters. That's fabulous. So you've got to think, what do I want students to be able to do? What are my learning outcomes? And then think, which technology should I use? Do I need technology at all? You may not need technology. But you start with what you want students to learn, and then you fit technology in it. It's a tool that you may or may not need, depending on what you want students to learn. It's not like, oh, well, online is automatically better. And then finally, we've got to recognize that learning is about change. That in order to actually grow new neurons, to make connections, your brain is changing, right? And so college is this weird kind of thing, right? Because if you think about high school, students in high school are using the middle part of their brain, the striatum, the part where you're good at memorizing. Then we all say, oh, college is different, right? But what we forget to tell them, and actually at orientation I actually show a picture of the brain, and I say, okay, so you've been using your striatum, you're really good at it, that's great. Now welcome to college, you're going to use your neocortex. That's the front part, that's the part that makes decisions, that judgments, right? So literally, it's not done growing yet. So we want you to use this new part of your body that's still growing, and it's not the bit you were really good at before. So we've brought these students in who are good at this other thing, and then so literally the judgment part, the thinking, the critical thinking piece that we're trying to teach, uses a part of the brain that's not yet finished. So if I ask you, should you set your hair on fire? You're an adult. It doesn't take you very long. But if you ask a 20-year-old, there is a measurable difference in the amount of time it takes them to go, oh, that could be cool. They actually have to think about, this is why they make poor decisions, right? Because that part of the brain, it's not just that they haven't learned yet, it's that they literally don't have enough neurons there. So that means we've got to think about the progression over those 4 years of how we want them to learn. We have to actually teach them. We can't just say, well, you didn't do all the reading. Well, but no one taught me how to do reading. We have to, it's teaching. It's not called having high standards. It's called teaching. We have to start them someplace and then move them along. But what we're trying to do is to change them. We've got to stop being afraid of that. That's not indoctrination. We can't let the conservative right have that against us. No, we are trying to change them. That is our job. That's why they've come here. We want to teach them how to open their minds. So in fact, one of my, again, you think it's bad enough that we measure butt time. I would measure learning, but I would actually make the graduation exam really easy. When you can change your mind, you can graduate. When you know how to hold two opposing ideas at once in your mind at the same time without making a decision, you can graduate. That'll take some people longer than others. That's really the product. Because it used to be that we were teaching knowledge, right? But we're not anymore. Because our relationship with knowledge has changed. So these are 3 things that have changed because of technology that we'd like to say, I hate that. Sorry. You might want to go back to horse and buggy too, but we have cars now, right? So our relationship with knowledge has simply changed. It used to be that you had lectures, right? You had information, and the only place the students were going to learn about quantum mechanics was in your lecture hall. PBS didn't have lectures on quantum mechanics. NBC didn't have, right? It wasn't on the radio. I mean, there was no other way to get it. You had to come here. Yeah, you could read a textbook, but there were no other lectures. Now, everybody has lectures on quantum mechanics. Yale, Harvard, MIT, Stanford. Literally, the course I took from Leonard Susskind is on my phone, right? I don't remember how much I paid for it, and I remember where I sat and that I was awake part of the time. But he's actually doing 35 years later, he hasn't really changed much, except that there's a whiteboard instead of a chalkboard that covered him with chalk dust. But literally, I can look at those lectures on my phone for free. And that was really most of course. Yes, okay, there was a TA who occasionally spoke in Chinese, and we sat there. But that was my experience, and that's now for free. So that commodity that universities were selling, I have information, you need this information, you better come to class. Otherwise, you have to read the textbook, but I'll explain it better. That was what we were selling. That was our product. Now they're giving it away. And they're giving it away to other institutions. There's also, Wikipedia. There's a zillion types of content out there. There's more content than you could possibly know. So the point now is not, I need to know more by going to school, but I need to know how to think more. I need to understand which information is relevant, which information is correct, which site should I use? Is Wikipedia accurate? How do I find accurate information? That's much more important. So the way that we interact with knowledge is different. I'll give you two examples. So one is when I go to the doctor. When I used to go to the doctor and get a prescription, the doctor was required to do division, right? She would take my height, my weight, and actually have to use some math to figure out what the dosage should be. Right? That's why we taught division, literally, to doctors to make sure they could get the right prescription. Now she pulls out her phone, and she not only puts in my height and weight to skip the division, but actually all the other drugs I'm taking, my family, there's all sorts of other information. This is a much better, I have a friend of mine who went to college with, who's got a whole website on prescriptions and has improved efficacy, 1,000% because the phone app is better than any doctor could be. The whole PDR is in there. So I don't need somebody who does division anymore. I need somebody who understands how to ask me questions. The interpersonal actually matters more. A doctor who knows how to say, so, are you tired how much exercise? All those kinds of questions, knowing the right questions to ask becomes more important than doing long division. And then plugging it into my app and getting it right. So the way that we interact with knowledge has changed. And in other examples, we're the last people to notice this. And that's true of all technology, right? Americans were not very good at realizing that cell phones were going to change our lives, right? Because we had great landlines, right? And I was a cell phone resistor. Hi, my name is Jose. I'm a cell phone resistor. I had a phone in my office. I had a phone at home. And I had 20 blissful minutes in the car every day with no phone. It was great. So I didn't need a cell phone. I didn't want a cell phone, right? But in West Africa, where the landlines were not good, or in Poland, where the landlines were terrible, they said, wait, there's this device, and I can talk to other people just like that? Give me 6. This is great, right? So people literally, they figured out the cell phone was going to be a life changer. And literally, I went to Timbuktu a couple of years ago, and literally, we're riding up on the camel, and out comes the guide to meet us, and I'm thinking, man, we're in Timbuktu, this is great. I start talking, and he's like, he takes the earbuds out, and turns off his iPod. There's an internet cafe in Timbuktu. And then, there was, there's sand on the floor, but this is like 6 years ago, and there's an internet cafe. They're wireless. So for this kid, he says, Wikipedia changed my life. I don't have a university here. I don't have a library here. Now I have Wikipedia in Arabic. This is a life. So he noticed before I did. Because we have libraries. We're surrounded by knowledge. So this relationship to knowledge isn't obvious to us, but it's obvious to our students. Second, like it or not, social proximity has changed. The meaning of friends has changed forever. Students, now talk to each other and their parents and their friends in a whole different way, and they have friends that they never met. They email their professors. They could go through a whole 4 years and never talk to a professor. But they could have lots of contact with a professor, just maybe not face-to-face. Now, again, that may or may not be a good thing, but this is normal now. The relationship with, you can keep your friends back home. This has changed what happens socially in a lot of ways. Those of you who went to college, when I did, remember that, we didn't have phones in college, in our dorm rooms, right? There was a phone at the end of the hall. And so on Sunday night, we'd line up, and we'd, call our parents. And I still remember the week I messed up and forgot to call Mom on Sunday. And so the next week, because for some reason we figured you couldn't call on a Monday. It had to be on Sunday. So I just waited a week. Oops. It's like, hi, Mom, it's your son. A son? I have a son? Sorry, Mom, I missed a week. Can you imagine that today? It's like, they're texting their parents in class, So they hate being disconnected. But there are also opportunities here because college is about faculty-student interaction, remember? So now there are other ways to interact. Yes, office hours are fine, class is fine, but you now have a chance to interact with your students in other kinds of ways. So we used to, eat dinner in the dorms or live in the rest. Those are good ways too, but now there are new ways, and we've got to think about, where do I want to be? Is it too creepy to be on Facebook? How do I interact with my students? So that we have a new set of problems. And third, technology has changed the way we think about customization. Now we started this, do you remember Have It Your Way? We're old enough, the hamburgers. I mean, come on, can you imagine going to Starbucks and saying, just coffee? Well, what kind? Half calf, macchiato, double, whatever. I mean, right? Your credit card can be customized. I mean, everything can be customized. And the thing that's most customized is your experience with visual and learning, right? So gaming is the new paradigm for learning. They didn't mean to create the greatest learning tool on the planet, but they wanted to sell games. And the way you sell games is not by saying, open the game, read the manual first. Read 300 pages, try this. And the left-hand corner, right? No, the way that you sell a game is that, turn it on, start playing. You get performance before competence. That even when you're really bad at the game, it's fun. And then as you get better at the game, it remains fun. They give you things just in time. You get information only as needed, not information you'll need in 6 weeks or 6 minutes. Games are pleasantly frustrating. I mean, a good game is pleasantly, right? And think about anything you want to learn, whether it's if you go to your first yoga class and we say, hey, put your foot over your head. Are you likely to come back to yoga? No, you want to start at an appropriate level. You want it to be, but if it's too easy, what do? It was too easy. That's nothing. Stand there. That was nothing. I'm going home, right? I mean, you want it to be just hard enough. Sound like anything familiar? Right? It sounds like school should be just hard enough. But just hard enough for you, and just hard enough for you, and just hard enough for you, and right? Not it's easy for you and boring for you. That's our problem. So video games actually customize themselves to everybody who's playing them simultaneously. Oh, wish we could do that. And so that's our first problem. The second problem is that actually students have spent more time playing video games than they have if they were in middle school and high school with perfect attendance, which would be about 10,000 hours by the time they got to college. And on average, they've spent 10,800 hours playing video games. So like it or not, they've come to us having learned a lot and spent more time on video games than they have in school. So then they go, wow, I can't fast forward you? Wait, you're going too fast. Because on a game, you just go down a level. Just click down a level. So we've got to make college more like a video game. Okay, so I will talk more about this afternoon, but I'm going to go through each of those three things in terms of how they change what we want to do. But I will say briefly. So technology is great for content. It's actually better for content than you are. Sorry. Didn't used to be that way. That's happened in the last 5 years, right? It may not be good for changing minds. Yay, we still have a job. It's not good for the interactive piece necessarily, even though technology can be interactive. Technology is great for content. It's also multivalent, right? This is true for podcasts even more so. But you can now, again, we're just talking about how the games are multivalent, right? It's hard enough for you, hard enough for you. It's not hard for you and boring for you. So you can say, well, here's an animation for you. Here's a video for you. Here it is in Spanish for you, right? You can do multiple things. So I put, YouTubeversity is a YouTube version of lectures. That's the Spanish version. Now, I know I'm not in Texas anymore, but my guess is there's somebody in your classes who might benefit from their first exposure to covalent bonds in Spanish. And unless you can speak 2 languages at once, it might actually help to say, for those of you who want this, right? So there's multiple entry points. And again, that's something that you're really good at. Your job as being the professor on the ground is you know your students, or you need to know them better. Because that, again, is where the value add is. Because I can go online and say, well, how do I find out? Well, just Google it. I don't know how to do that. Okay, so I understand you need this, you need that. So if you go and Google anything like we will this afternoon, you'll find that the student who's thinking about going to your lecture on covalent bonds in the morning now can just roll over, and their laptop is probably still on the bed. My daughter does this, and I say, put the laptop on the floor. Don't sleep with the laptop. Sleep with the dog, maybe, but they sleep with the laptop. It's like, I hate that. But What, right? It's just, she sleeps with a laptop. And so you open the laptop and type in covalent bonds. And what do you get? 7 million hits. Lectures from Harvard, lectures from Yale, lectures by Nobel Prize winners, videos. There's a song about covalent bonds. There are lots of animations. There are a dozen iPhone apps to teach you this concept. There's Khan Academy lectures. There's tons of content. You don't need to give a lecture on covalent bonds. And in fact, if you do, you better require attendance. Because if I'm on the other side of campus and it's snowing, not that it does that here, and you're giving a covalent bonds lecture at 8 o'clock on Monday, right? I had no choice. I had to get up and I had to go. Students today are going to say, who is this asshole? Right? Why would I go and listen to something that actually, this guy at Harvard is better, or this guy on the Khan Academy? I mean, you better have something new to say and better be better than anything that's online. So the technology is actually better for content, and there is all sorts of stuff. I also include Wiley Plus here, probably because I did a thing for them a couple days ago. But all the textbook publishers now have these new interactive textbooks, especially for kind of basic subjects like chemistry. They used to come with, the test bank. Now you can buy a product that has the animation and the games all built into it. It's not just a textbook. And we're going to see this exploding. In fact, the big thing that we should be worried about is that publishers now think they're creating courses. And they're going to do that. Everybody wants to, JCPenney's wants to offer courses. Everybody wants to offer courses. And that's the new thing. So our courses have to have some extra value, because the Wiley Plus textbook is basically it's an online course. All right. Podcasts, we'll do a podcast this afternoon. But, despite my, Jedi mind meld slogan at the bottom, that's a Star Wars, Star Trek joke, if you missed it. But teach to the many, not the middle, right? Because what we do is what I'm doing. I'm going, okay, she looks bored. He's not got a clue. So I'm going to find, I'll give more examples for him. No, now she's even more bored, right? I mean, we try to figure out how many examples I can give. But in a podcast, I can give lots of examples. And you can skip the ones you don't want to. I can give different examples for boys and for girls. Say, those of you who like baseball, here's a great couple of examples. Those of you who hate baseball, here's some other examples. The engineers should be listening to this. The lawyers, right? I can do all of that simultaneously, and then students can choose. It can be customized, and that's going to improve learning. So actually, a podcast is better than a lecture, and you never run out of time. So we'll do some of that this afternoon. All right, so I want to talk a little bit more in depth about how we respond to social proximity. So the first is e-communication, right? This is the simplest thing. Email. I mean, we'll talk about, Twitter or Facebook or some other ways to do it, but just think about email. What could you do on email that would make more class time? Because think about, again, if class time is the most expensive thing we do, lights, chairs, driving to campus, finding a parking space, we want every second of class time to be used for something valuable. So how can we make a little more class time for ourselves and save ourselves some of the work? What could we do on email? Pardon? Everything. Everything. Well, maybe not everything. What could we do?
We can answer the questions if they've got specific questions about a project.
You can answer specific questions. That's great. What else?
Direct them to specific links that may do a better job of answering your questions.
Direct them to specific links, right? Instead of saying, okay, I'm going to write on the chalkboard, whatever this is, just I'll send you an email. That's fast, saves some time. Yes?
Add something you forgot to mention in class.
Yes, so right, think about it. None of us have ever run out of time. Oh, rats, 5 minutes. I got a century to go. Let me talk faster. Just write faster, right? I know none of us would ever do that. But the truth is, you can now say, you know what? What's more important in class is that we have a conversation, that I motivate you, and I've got 300 more slides to do, but I'll send you that later. And the content can be delivered some other way. What else? Remember, easy. All I want to do is actually make more class time. Yes?
I'll email them the assignment before class and say, read the assignment before class, come with questions about the assignment, because my assignments are fairly long. So I don't want them to read the assignment in class when I pass it out.
Great. Yeah, our handouts, all that kind of stuff. Anything you don't want, anything you pass out, that's distracting. What else? Even easier.
They can send me work and I can check and comment.
Absolutely. They can send you work, you can check it. Okay. And then survey says answer the easiest. Don't make announcements anymore. You don't work this way. You don't say, hey, everybody, come to the meeting next Wednesday. You say, send me an email, right? I don't have my calendar with me, whatever. Send me a request, whatever. So this does two things. If you don't announce the midterm is next Wednesday or the study group is next Thursday, your students will have to check their email. So if you establish from the very first day that you don't do this, and I do this by not handing out a syllabus. Because when you hand out a syllabus, what do? They read the syllabus. So, and of course, what are they reading for? They're like, where's the number? How many pages of reading do we have to do? Oh man, this course is too hard. I'm out of here. Right? They're looking for, oh man, Professor X, he has 3 pages less of writing we have to do. Right? They're comparing. So don't let them do that. And also, it wastes your best opportunity. The first day of class is your best opportunity to make a first impression that your subject matters, that you care, that your course will be life-changing. And if you read the syllabus, if you give into that impulse and give them the syllabus reading, you're sending the message. College is all about finding the easiest classes. You're sending that message because you read the syllabus to them. Instead of college is all about changing your mind. And I'm here to change your mind today. So, an hour from now, you'll get a syllabus in your email, in your campus email that you are required to have. If you forward it, great, fine. Oh, and there's an exam on the syllabus. There's a syllabus quiz before the next class, right? So now I have points attached to it. There's a syllabus quiz. The syllabus is online. You're going to have to read the syllabus to take the quiz, and I don't have to talk about it. So I'm sending a message that there is some stuff that happens outside of the class that you will have to do. And now I've opened the email channel, and I can, oh, and by the way, I'm not going to tell you when the midterm is. It's on the syllabus, probably, hopefully. But if I add something or do something else, I can now do that. I can remind you of things in email because I know you're checking your email. I've set the expectation. Summaries were mentioned. Reading, handouts were mentioned. Additional content was all mentioned. In addition, though, email, even email, can be a teaching technique, right? So the first slide was about just creating more time. But in fact, it's also an opportunity for interaction, which means it's an opportunity for teaching. So again, answering questions about something that you don't have time to do in class. But simple stuff. Show your right? We know that your passion about your subject matters. Students learn more when they think you care, especially when they think that you care about their learning. I literally, on one of my course evaluations from about 10 years ago, said, I know this professor cares about my learning because he sends lots of email. That's really odd, but okay. They see that as a sign that you care. You can send too much email, let me clarify. We all digress. Not me, but no, we all digress. You can now realize there's a place I can tell that story. Oh, I just realized I can put that in the email later, right? I can make connections outside. Introduce readings. This is the most important. There's a special word we have for the people in your class who understand why you've assigned the reading. They're called faculty. You became a faculty because you're weird. You liked school, you understood why the reading was assigned. I mean, you were not the normal student. Otherwise, everybody would be here, right? Normal students don't like school that much. They want to be done. They don't want to stay here forever like we do. I mean, we stayed here forever, right? Most of us never been anywhere else, right? So you're odd. So your expectations are probably not the right assumptions to make. Why did she assign the reading? There's 3 chapters? Why? So explain to them. That's actually not a good thing to put in the syllabus, because the syllabus, after 3 weeks, they're not checking it every day. But email, you could say, I send out, and again, I don't over-email, but twice a week I send an email, 1 for each reading. And so again, entry point. I know what my students, how they're doing, what they're not understanding, and so I tailor it to exactly what the students are having trouble with. Here's why we're going to read Derrida, right? Why would you assign that? Well, here's why we're going to read it. And here's why we're only going to read 18 pages, because if you read 30 pages, you'd kill yourself, right? So, or whatever. I mean, but you have, and there's some examples on my website on teachingnaked.com. Don't go there now. But there are some examples of how to introduce reading. And again, it's not very long. But again, email is longer form. It's a more formal type of communication. It's actually perfect for introducing the readings. And I do that then every week, and I keep up with them. You can also send encouragement. You could do that on Twitter, you could do that on email, but if you want them to do the reading, you've got to make the reading important. And one of the ways you do that is by communicating with them and telling them it's important and telling them why. Another way to do that is not assign quite so much, and we'll talk about that this afternoon. Actually, if you want them to do more reading, assign less, and then talk about it more in class. But when you assign, welcome to my class, first day of class, here's 40 pages of background reading. Next class comes, hi, I hope you did the reading. Here's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to summarize the important bits. All right, so my daughter says to me, she's a junior in college, and she says, Dad, I got great news. I saved you some money. Okay. So remember that I begged for the iPad? Yes, I remember. My teachers had ebooks, so instead of buying the books, I just loaded the sample for each of the books because they gave me the first couple of chapters. And then, after the first week, I realized that none of my professors were going to use the reading, so I didn't buy any books. You saved money. That's literally how they think. My own kid, And so I said, thanks. Really, you don't need them? No, none of my professors, they just kind of summarize the book in their lectures. And so that's how they think. So if you want them to do the reading, you've got to say, did you do the reading? Write a question on an index card, bring it to class, and hand it to your neighbor, and then do something with the reading. And we'll talk about some strategies this afternoon. Current events, if you're teaching a course, any course has some relevance to what's going on. You just have to find the right current event. Obviously the obvious. If you're teaching earthquakes, there's a tsunami in Japan, you send them an email or a text and say, hey, do you see there's a relationship between our course and what just happened in Japan? Don't assume they get it, right? That's why you're the professor. You get it. You're good at making connections. We want to help them make connections, so make connections for them. And then reflection, final thoughts. So again, the other best thing you can do, when someone asks you a question and you know the answer, don't always say the answer. That just makes you more intimidating. Man, he's so smart. He knows everything. Say, you know what? That's a great question. I'm going to have to think about that. I will send everybody an email later after I've thought about that. Because what am I modeling? I'm modeling that actually when you get new information, what do? You think, not react, because that's what they do on CNN or Fox, right? Oh, I have an answer right now. What's your answer right now? Right? So that's all they get. You're the best opportunity for them to understand what slow thinking means. So model it. Don't think they know what that is. They don't. They're not professors. But you can model that by saying, I'm going to think about that. That's a great question. You've made me think. So I will have to email you later. And you didn't used to have that tool. Now we have this great new I'll post it on our discussion board later. But reflection, showing that you can think and change your mind, is critical. Office hours. Do you require office hours here? Where's the dean? It's ridiculous. You don't need office hours anymore. You need student communication, and you may want to be in your office for some of that. But where your office is, really? I mean, I have to walk in the cold again? And time is not measured in hours anymore, right? What students want to know is how to communicate with you. That's the purpose of office hours, was to have faculty-student interaction. So your office is also really intimidating. Don't underestimate that. It's full of those book things, those old-fashioned things. And I'm allergic to those. They're dusty, right? I'm serious, right? Read Rebecca Cox, The College Fear Factor, about the difference between what faculty think they're saying and what students hear. There's a percentage of students never make it out of the parking lot. They literally they drive to campus on the first day of school, first generation, they throw up in the parking lot, they go home. They never actually make it into, you are so intimidating, they don't actually even make it into class. There is a melt on the first day of class of kids who actually get to the parking lot and not into your class. So don't make it harder for them, right? Find ways to say, hey, it's okay. And again, we know that learning happens best when there are two things that go on, right? Some people think, I'm the nurturing one. I'm the high standards one. Turns out neither one of those work. But when you put them together, they work beautifully. The best teachers are those, and we know this Ken Bain's book, What the Best College Teachers Do, has tons of great evidence that if you combine high standards with, I am going to help you, help you, help you, everybody's going to cross the threshold. That's when you get the most results in terms of learning. So the nurturing piece is important for everybody. They have to believe that you want to help them learn. They do learn more in those situations. So how can we do that? Have alternate methods of communication. They're used to chatting or messaging. Give them another option. Doesn't mean you don't have classroom discussion. It means that you just have additional channels. So a discussion board works. And get out of the office, right? Have lunch in the cafeteria. Go to the dorms. Just walk around. Find another place to meet with students that's less intimidating than your office. Again, I didn't make the rules. I'm just telling you. Your office is intimidating. There are students who will not want to go there. Look, it's worse. I'm the dean, for God's sake. They have to, like, the gauntlet of administrators in the hallway. It's terrible. So I have my office hours next to the coffee bar, 1 hour a week. And the best thing about that is I have unexpected conversations. People just stop. What? Aren't you the dean? Yeah, I'm just sitting here. It's only an hour. It's my office hour. And I do it here. And I have many more conversations than I would otherwise. Okay, so I think you all need an e-communication policy. And here are some guidelines. Be clear how you'll communicate. Create a schedule for yourself, right? You have to know yourself. Be clear and consistent about information is in which channel. So you can have text and Facebook, or don't have all of it. Pick two, right? But then, so I do, for example, email is to introduce readings. Announcements happen on the web page, and then I will tweet them with the course hashtag. So that's the shorter stuff. Or if something happens, like right now there's a debate going on. Hey, you're at the halftime show. I mean, I do use Twitter for things that I want you to get on your phone right now, but they're short. So hey, the halftime have any relationship to what we talked about in class on Tuesday? Or hey, what are the bones of your foot? I'm at a football game. It's okay. Recall is good. You'll learn more if you actually have to recall in a drunken stupor. It's good, right? I mean, you're teaching a foreign language, right? I mean, you want students to interact with your content more often than just 3 times a week. So there are different kinds of channels, but limit the forms of communication. There are templates. I think there's one on the handout. Yeah, there's a little bit on the handout. So you can take a minute, look at the handout, and then just fill that in. The best way to contact me is throwing rocks at my window. So my point is, you don't need office hours, but you need this on your syllabus. This is the information students care about. This will change in 6 weeks, because they change. Every year the freshmen, it's like, I remember when my daughter said, Dad, email's for old people. I mean, grandma's on email. I mean, grandma's on Facebook. It's like, what? Now it's Facebook is for old people. Because grandma's on Facebook. Oh, man. So they're all on Twitter. So you want to get hip? So right, that's where your students are. You've got to keep, the goalposts keep moving. But that's what they want to know. Here are some examples. If you want to be on Facebook, that's great. If you don't know how to use the privacy controls on Facebook, don't do it. They're not that hard, but get a teenager to show you. I'm serious. Get a teenager to show you. That's how you're going to learn anything on Facebook, and what's cool and what's hip, and what will protect your ass, because it is dangerous, and you need to not be on Facebook if you don't know how to use the privacy controls. Okay? But Facebook is better than Blackboard or a course management system for some things. The best thing, actually, I think, is not to use Facebook and to have a course management system where you post every day and they post, and so they get used to checking it every day, like they check Facebook every day. But if you're not a power user and you want them to see it every day, a Facebook group, they don't have to be your friends. They can just join the Facebook group. And your university almost certainly has a .edu where only students from your institution can join the Facebook group. So you don't have to worry about strangers finding your stuff. There are different ways to respond to email. You could say, I only respond to email from 1 to 3, Monday through Friday. That's okay. You don't have to respond to email on the weekends. You don't have to make more work for yourself. But be consistent. Tell them when you do email every week, and then say, if you want to get me, it's like having an office hour. I respond to email in the afternoon, not in the morning, not on the weekends. Again, the bank closes sometimes too. Yes, there's online banking, but there's also, this is the hours that we're actually open to respond. I mean, AT&T isn't open 24/7, right? You can call, sorry, call back. right? So you can do that. It's okay. It's good to hit those expectations. I use chat as a triage. I use Facebook chat. So I say, I'm online, 1 to 3 Mondays and Wednesdays. You can send me a chat. You can post in the group. And sometimes I'll get a chat and I'll say, wow, you need to post this for the group. Or then I'll say, oh, no, you need to come to my office. You're in serious trouble. I can use it as triage. Or I might say, oh, you want to show me your paper? Let's share screens on Skype. And basically, Skype is free. And they're going to walk into your office and say, will you help me with my paper? Yes. Here it is on my laptop. Could you print it out? Print it out. What? Right? They're going to show you. If they're going to, just say, let me see, share your screen with me. And that's what parents, if you think, those parents who say, hey, I'm a lawyer in New York, and I know this paper deserves an A because I helped edit it, right? You've heard that. They did that on Skype. And the way that you do it is you actually share screens. So parents are loving this. You should be loving it too. Okay. Games. I've talked a little bit about this. I'm going to show some games, some easy games. I'm going to show you how to get games in almost every field. Somebody else has already done it for you. We'll talk about that this afternoon. But it's another one of these ways to push content outside of the class. So now you've got students outside of the class watching videos and doing stuff. How do you make sure they've actually done the reading? I give an exam before every class. All right? It improves student preparation. It creates more class time. For other things, I no longer give my exams in class, most of them. I use my course management system, so the grades are easy. It's automatic. I'll talk about JIT this afternoon. You can improve your preparation by knowing what students responded. Which problems did they get right? Which problems did they get wrong? And it's true, I use multiple choice questions because they're easy, they're quick. So the secret is better multiple choice questions. And again, I'll talk about this more this afternoon. But let's start with my syllabus quiz. Just one example. So again, remember, welcome to my class. The syllabus arrives in an hour. There's a quiz, and every class, there'll be a quiz, goes away an hour before the next class. They're in Blackboard. There are 5 multiple choice questions. And so you're going to have 1,000 points. And there's partial credit. There's all kinds of stuff. So you better read my syllabus and read the learning outcomes. And this is easy, right? What's the answer? You don't have to read my syllabus. You can read, what's the answer? No! Of course not, right? It would be too easy. Then you wouldn't have to read the syllabus. Look, I teach jazz history, people. It's not accounting. It's not, the bridge is not going to fall down if you fail my course, right? I want you to fall in love. I want you to have some reason that you love Thelonious Monk and your life is enhanced. So I actually want you to fall in love. I make it a learning outcome. That makes it hard to assess, but I tell you, on the final exam, there will be a question where I will ask you, what did you fall in love with? In one paragraph, explain to me, not who they are and when they were born, why does it personally matter to you? Why does Thelonious Monk or Duke Ellington personally matter to you? So, I mean, it's not the perfect assessment, but it conveys what I want. And so the answer is actually number 2. See, maybe you'd have to read the syllabus. But that's just an example. So here's what I'm proposing. You send an email to prepare. The entry point is something that you understand. Where are my students? What are they struggling with? Content for first exposure. Here's a video, here's a reading. There's an exam to make sure you did it. Evaluate what you learned. I think there should be writing in every class and in every preparation. So I use this really high-tech thing called an index card. I go through thousands of them. So take out an index card, write your favorite passage, write your biggest complaint against Rousseau, write something, write how you could apply this kind of physics to solve X kind of problem. Then bring it to class, pass it to your neighbor who turns it over and then rebuts it. You've both had a chance to do some writing. You now have more time in class because you're not giving that lecture on covalent bonds, right? Then class time can be to challenge, to actually try to change minds. We're going to talk a lot about this afternoon. What kinds of, now that you have all this extra time, what do you do in class? And then e-communication to follow up, to reinforce. Some people call this flipping. I called it the inverted classroom about 10 years ago, and then people stole that and started calling it flipping. And I said, well, flipping, I'm going to think of something else because I don't like flipping. So that's why it's naked. But anyway, so you're a Buick. Sorry. You are the Buick, and it is 1970. And your competition looks like that. That's the University of Phoenix. Those are MOOCs, right? MOOCs are basically a Datsun. Doesn't look like much yet, does it? But in a few years, you might still be a Buick. I mean, look at how much difference there is. Yeah, right. And at the same time, Datsun became Nissan, became Infiniti, Toyota became Lexus, right? So nobody in 1970 realized, they're going to introduce a Lexus. So when the MOOCs and, Harvard is pouring millions of dollars into this. They can afford it. MOOCs are going to get better. The University of Phoenix has just started a class with Clayton Christensen, a Harvard professor at University of Phoenix. The competition is going to get better. So what are we going to do to get better in the meantime? Oh, the other thing about the competition is that the difference between the Datsun and the Buick was double, triple maybe. The difference between college prices is, of course, 10 or 20 times. And of course now, I know you can all do math, the competition is free. We are infinitely more expensive. Man, we better be, what are we going to do? Infinitely more expensive than the competition, which is getting better by the second? Only one response. Really? I mean, think about it. Because we have all these sunk costs. You're in it, right? In the sunken chamber, right? Unless we're going to tear it all down and go totally online, we are always going to be more expensive. Infinitely more expensive. We better offer something massively better in our classrooms than just slightly better lectures. So that will be what we do this afternoon. Right now, what I'd like you to do is go to Socrative.com on your cell phone, your computer, on some other device, just because we can. Go to Socrative.com, Socrative.com. It works on any cell phone. It works on an iPad. It works on your computer. You want to enter as a student. All you need is the room number, 810007. That's all you need. So you don't have to create a fancy login or anything. Just go to Socrative.com, 810007. And I would like you to answer the question. I would like you to create a headline for today. You are a journalism major. And so I want a headline for what you've just experienced. Give me the headline for the story you're going to write about today. Okay, just type it in. Because you can all do this really fast. Right, they do this even faster, but okay, you can type. So type in some. Give me a headline for today. See? It tells me nobody is, then you have to hit enter or something, right? But because I'm waiting for, I could see 7 of you were in the room, 9 of you were in the room. See? So as a faculty member, again, this is free. As a faculty member, I just go in. I don't need notice no clickers. Although, the other thing I do instead of clickers, index cards. Colored index cards work really well, right? Green for red, yellow for, or green is A, yellow is B, C is red, or whatever. And then I ask a question, and then I can get, aha! If I see a rainbow, that's bad. Everybody shows up the same color. Everybody's got the same thing. Okay, so good. So here are some things. So some more headlines. Some more headlines. Great. So notice I get the responses in real time. I know that you can also do this with chat or with text. If you've got a TA in your class, I have students text the TA questions if they don't want to raise their hand, and then the TA can also see, oh man, there are lots of questions about this. Come over. Okay, so you've put in some headlines. I teach in my underwear. I like that. Okay. So now what we can do is we can say, okay, come on, a few more. Let me have one more. Then we can do this. We can vote on responses. All right. So now what I'd like you to do is you'll see it's changed. You can vote on which one of these you think is the best. Right. So you can now go vote on your responses, and we'll get a sense of what you're excited about. I'm mostly just testing out the technology. Right. Okay. So you can see people are. Right, so this is a free thing you can do in your classes, Socrative.com. There are lots of other sites. My point is you don't need clickers. Everybody, phones and iPads and laptops and things will work. Notice that when you're doing this, you do have to open your laptop. And so you could check Facebook, but I think part of what we'll talk about this afternoon, how do you manage laptops in class? But you like teaching my underwear. I like this. Don't waste massively critical class time. Okay, so I will. So let me. Here are some pictures. This thing is. So I got rid of all of these things. There are no more of these. We got rid of all the computers. We put this in instead. We called it the E Nook. My faculty lovingly call it the diaper changing station. It folds up, it goes away there. You can see here's a large class. You can see it there in the corner. And then this is actually a room that looked exactly like this. So this is how I took the fixed chairs out that nobody could move, and I put in these that have a little place for your drink and your laptop, and they turn around. We had to put little rubber things on the end of so they couldn't. This room is actually perfect for that. It's still 100 seats, and it has one of these in front, so it doesn't have one of those, because I don't want to stand behind this and read my notes. And so when I took it away, well, can I have a music stand or something? I say, no. The whole point is I want you interacting with people and thinking about other kinds of ways to interact. So, okay, so new technology means thinking has become more important. This is great news, right? Technology is great for content. Wikipedia has lots of content. It's not going to change your mind, though. That's what you're for. This is good news for us. But that also means that course design becomes more important, because it used to be that course design was a bunch of content. Now, if your course design is a bunch of content, you're not adding any value. You might as well just provide a list of links, right? That would be a really bad MOOC. Integration is much more important now. If we really want students to progress over 4 years, we've got to think about how the courses relate to each other, right? Do you say, okay, well, you teach Foucault, I don't have to. No, it's going to take more than one class to get Foucault. Right? We're going to need to read it a little bit at a time, maybe, and as our brain gets bigger, it'll get easier. Right? So we've got integration across disciplines is important. Integration within your majors all need learning outcomes. You start with, what are the learning outcomes for my major? What should a graduate who has a BS in computer science be able to do? What will a BA in religious studies, how will they be able to think? And then you design your curriculum to make that happen over 4 years. But it's not just content, because content was the old days. Okay, so technology disruptions are going to cause us to think more about value, maximize the productivity of face-to-face. What is our product, right? The product has changed in the last 100 years. Are we about prestige? Are we about the experience? Dorm life, football, Greek life. I mean, you can sell that if you want. That'll work for some institutions. It's not going to work for everybody. But learning might just be your product, in which case we'd have to rethink everything we do on campus around the actual product. And mission. How are you unique? All colleges are trying to be like Harvard. We don't need everybody to be like Harvard. We don't want every college to be the same. So when I build sandcastles, they're not all the same. That would be really boring. Right? Why would I rebuild? I did that one before. The challenge is to think of something new and different that I haven't done yet. Right? So we need to figure out, what is our unique mission? What will you do that nobody else does? That's a better place to be in the marketplace anyway. What is unique about your institution? And then design the rest. It's just like any other product. Design around it so that people say, that's where I go for that. That's what's unique. So I said earlier that you could be the first person to demonstrate slow thinking. You might also be the first adult human being, the first human being that your students have ever seen change their mind. It's probably not their friends, probably not their preacher, not their parents. So if you don't change your mind, where are they going to see it? So when a student says something, the best thing you can ever do in class is say, you know what, that was a great question. I think you've changed my mind. You've modeled, wow, you gave me a new insight, a new thought, and I changed. Because if you can't do it, then they don't, the professor never changes his mind. Changing your mind is not a value. You need to model changing your mind as a value. That's why you're here for 4 years, to learn how to change your mind. And I think the best way to do that is not to be giving a lecture, but in fact to be engaging with people and challenging them and actually trying to model how to change your mind. Because you as a human being, face to face, is that's really the added value. It's not the content you deliver, it's your humanity. Your modeling of what it's like to be a thinker. That's what they're watching. How do you think? And if you can change your mind and model that for them, they can too. So that's why I want you to teach naked. Thank you.
Good stuff.